First business agenda item is community development. Mark Ziegler has information about some property at the Shelton Marina.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. As you may be aware, the Port of Shelton, we recently went through some public process on long-term use of the marina. They are coming to a conclusion with that decision-making process at this time, and one of those decisions may be very well be to surplus that property. In this fact-finding and information process, they came to the city with something that I did not certainly know about anyway, which is there's deeded parcels underneath the existing Oakland Bay Marina, 12 of those, which were deeded to the port in 1950 that have a reversion clause. That reversion clause states that if they are no longer used for port purposes, that the city can exercise that reversion clause and take ownership of those parcels. So today is information for you and hopefully some direction for staff and how we proceed with our conversations with the Port of Shelton in moving forward. If they do declare that surplus and look at sale of that marina, they certainly would like to have that deed of those 12 parcels cleaned up and taken care of at that time. There's a couple options as staff sees it, and that's take ownership and therefore liability of the improvements and what might lie within those parcels, and then decide what the city wants to do at that point, whether it's sell, lease, negotiate further at some point. Two, they can just waive the reversion clause and deed those parcels to the port themselves, or waive the reversion clause, deed the parcels to the port, and then negotiate a level of public access on the property, which was the intent of the original deed, obviously, was to, the Port District would provide some public access under that deed from 1950. I know Mr. Collins has looked at this a few times, so it's nice to have him here if you have some questions regarding legal aspects of this matter. But it's certainly, I'm open to input from the council on how to proceed with the Port of Shelton.
Thank you, Mark. Comments, questions for Mark?
Yeah, is this an opportunity for us to potentially put this into a study session at the recommendation from our interim city manager to start maybe diving into this in more of a study session format in the month of October? That being said, do you know what the specific timeline is with the port right now? Or is this something that would potentially delay or cause delay?
Potentially. Obviously, they're tied to this deed. And they're probably going to have a tough time selling it or doing something with it if that's the direction they wanted to go with that deed reversion clause in there. So they're at the mercy of the city a bit.
Okay.
How we want to proceed with that, knowing that information is certainly our prerogative.
If they deeded it back to us, then you don't have any idea at this point what it would cost to clean that area up, if any needed.
There's unknown factors. The parcels are within the tidelands.
Okay.
So they're underneath the current marina. So in various locations, and they're not contiguous. They're in several locations underneath the marina themselves. So the boathouse is on site on the marina. They fall underneath those in the tidelands themselves, and they're not all contiguous. So it's not one piece of tidelands, and there's several in order. And then on the north side, and then there's a few more on the south side where the south dock is located.
And right at this point, we wouldn't know what that would benefit the city to take him back, what it would benefit.
The benefit may be providing that public access, but there certainly is a lot of liability involved with the improvements that are already on those parcels.
Yeah, okay.
If the port, we deeded them back to the port and they sold it, could we benefit from the parcels that we deed back to them? Could that be part of the giving it back to them permanently? They sell it and then we get our share.
I think that could be a negotiating piece. The public information that the port has put out recently is that they have a $3 million price tag for repairs and replacement of their south dock. And every indication to us is that any potential sale wouldn't be very fruitful with those, with that liability involved.
Yeah.
As it is now, that the, most likely, there's not much value there, I guess, in the marina with those improvements that need to be considered.
And waterfront's value to somebody.
Again, these are within the tidelands.
I'm talking about the whole package, you know, they sell the whole package.
Yeah.
The yacht club, the whole piece is value to somebody.
Mark, is the other land around there, is that fee ownership by the port?
Some of it is, some it's leased from DNR.
Okay, but some of it is
Yeah.
fee ownership by the port.
Correct, as well as we do have rights-of-way. The city has several rights-of-way that run through the tidelands as well. This will be a separate consideration from the council down the road because it's a separate matter. There's more restrictions on rights-of-way and whether we can vacate.
Yeah.
Trying to come up with vacate. And there's restriction on whether we can vacate. So we could lease those potentially to the port or whatever ownership might come into play there. But we can't vacate those or turn those over. So there is the ability for the city to maintain some public access or some stipulations of public access with those rights of ways as well.
But the port's not looking to sell them. They just these ones that they want to deed, thinking about deeding back to the city. They're not looking to sell the whole to a developer, are they? The whole yacht club area, the
When
waterfront?
they're considering surplus which might include sale of the entire marina.
Okay,
Again, that decision has not been made by the port.
right.
Sort of back to my original comment, something maybe I think we should just look at in a study session, just to think about.
I agree. I think we should
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
another look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure of all the details and whatnot.
And I'll just ask this question, that's independent of the three options put forward? Or is that contingent on selecting one of those options and then have a study session on how to deal, recommendations on what options are included,
I think we should meet and discuss,
the whole scenario?
yeah.
Okay.
And likely with John, have a more constructive conversation where we can talk about risk, liability, value, et cetera, in that format. If
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then
Yeah.
we'll plan a studying session to address the whole issue then.
If you'd like any further information leading into that,
Yeah.
please let me know, and I can certainly solicit that from the port.
Yeah,
So
now-
you've got everything in
Yeah,
front of you.
that'd be great. I think now that we kind of have those three options, we can ruminate on that a little bit, and if anything comes up.
And Mark, one thing that you provided to us previously that might be worth looking at again is the map that shows all of the overlapping property lines within that
Absolutely.
area, because I think it shows how this decision may affect future decisions.
Certainly.
Correct. Good point. I almost couldn't even see the,
It's quite a convoluted map,
Yeah.
yes, you're right.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
so we'll move on to the next item, which is also from